Hi, folks. Welcome to Disability Landscape. I'm Mark Knudsen, and today joining me is one of our contributors to the show is Tricia Karlberg. Tricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mark. Glad to be with you.
And Tricia has been busy out there covering the theater and arts. And one of the guests, she's lined up a couple people. And let me introduce from the Hennepin Theater Trust, the engagement director. I'm going to take a stab at the name, Joan Vorderbruggen. Joan, welcome.
Did I
do
it.
Okay?
You did it. Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks.
I felt you taught me well, and I had the confidence. I just had to try. And then you also have some along with you.
Yes. So thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you today and to your audiences about the work that we do. I am Joan Vorderbruggen, and I work for Hennepin Theater Trust. We own the Orpheum, State, and Pantages theaters, so the historic theaters in our downtown. I lead our public art and placemaking efforts, and I am really happy to be joined today with one of my closest colleagues and dear friends, Maryjane Mansfield, who is our public art manager. Jane, do you want to say hello to everyone out there?
Hey, nice to see you all out in TV land. We're really happy to be here today. Thank you for having us.
Okay. Yeah. And why don't you, Tricia, start it off then.
So we just wanted to ask, what kind of resources does Hennepin Trust have available to some of its disabled patrons? If either of you want to comment about that.
I think I'll start. Right now we have a show up. It's Tricia, I know some people might be familiar with our Made Here initiative, where we activated storefronts on Hennepin Avenue and even some on Nicollet Avenue in our downtown and in the Hennepin Theater District. Well, that project sunset about 2 years ago, but we still do activities like that in different kind of pop-up ways. And so we have a fine art gallery in our Hennepin Theater Trust Event Center that's located on 9th and Hennepin. And we recently featured a visual artist, Gary Melquist, who is part of the Avivo Artworks group. So he is an artist who is living with mental illness. And we did a solo show of his work in the fall. And we also created this really awesome storefront display featuring multiple artists who are part of the Avivo Artworks program in storefront windows. That's up now. You can see it now in the building called City Place Lofts. It's located at 730 Hennepin Avenue. And I will let Maryjane tell us a little bit more about that show, because she physically hung it and like worked with the artists and everything like that. So Jane, do you want to tell us a little bit about that show?
Yeah, sure. Super exciting. So Gary is part of the artist collective at Avivo, and he was chosen by their director to do a solo show to kind of like honor his lifetime achievement. So he's in his 70s and one of the most prolific members of their collective. So they really wanted to take a shot at really uplifting his work and getting it out in the public. And literally the week it was going to open, everything got shut down for COVID. So 6 months later, we managed to pull together a really spectacular opening for him that was super limited and COVID safe. So that was amazing. And that was our gallery. So a block or two away, we have a storefront space that we still activate. So we invited the entire collective to show there alongside Gary. So there's 13 members who each put like 2 pieces in the show. It's taped to glass posters of their artwork. And it's just gorgeous. Our downtown right now is boarded up. It's a ghost town. Hennepin Avenue is under construction where the storefront is. And mostly just like, between COVID and the social unrest, there's just It's very quiet downtown. So this work just is so fantastic right now in illuminating the area. And we actually, in lieu of being able to have a reception with them, we did an online celebration last week. And we had a coffee mug with each person's artwork put on there, which was delivered to their house, filled with hot cocoa like packets and candy. And then we all got together online and celebrated. And it is so joyful. And to meet those artists and like, you know, just like see the passion they have for their work was just fabulous.
Okay.
Looks like you have some little interest in art yourself,
Oh.
Mary. I just can't help noticing. I don't know where to put my eyes.
Right, same here, exactly. He was talking, I was just checking all the different things out in the background, and I hate to admit this, but
Distraction, yeah.
because I feel kind of like jealous or ashamed because the other day I went with my wife and we went to you know, the craft store Michael's,
Yes, yeah.
and I've always kind of had an interest and just have never got around to it. But I bought a book on drawing animals, you know, by
nice.
pencil, and that's so I'm just like just starting to, and I bought a pad, and so I'm just starting out in there.
That's the way it goes. And I'm going to say it is never too late. Gary did not even start making art until about 10 or 15 years ago. And he has stuck off. It's just been so wonderful. So never too late to start.
It isn't ever too late. I want to emphasize that because my mother is 75 years old. She's in remission with a cancer diagnosis, doing well. And through all of this isolation that so many people, especially people who may have underlying conditions and people who are, you know, really all of us are doing everything I think we can to try to stay safe. But of course, there's, you know, a lot of folks in our community that have more pressing issues that make this pandemic more difficult to navigate. So she took up paint by number. And oh my goodness, this woman is so good at this. And it's so funny. Like, you know, I call my mom every day to talk to her and see how she's doing and try to battle some of that isolation. But lately, when I've been calling her, she's like, oh, I totally lost track of time. I had no idea what time it was because I was so busy painting. And I'm like, yay, that's exactly what we want to happen, right? So yeah, I'd say for your particular audience, I think Jane and I would probably love to champion the idea of people trying to do something creative during this dark time where we're all kind of going through a lot of hardships and it's a sad time for a lot of us,
Right.
To express yourself creatively, to try writing a poem, to try drawing a picture. Like you said, Mark, like picking up a little book that maybe will help you you know, sort of get some creative juices flowing and a way to kind of express your feelings, because, you know, that's one of the things that I think is so wonderful about art and even visual art too, is, you know, it is really quite accessible to be able to participate in art making, you know, and so I think that it creates this really great opportunity for, you know, this particular audience who might be interested in, you know, thinking about some of this stuff. We just want to say, you know, if you were ever curious about making something, if you were ever kind of wondered, I hear a lot of times people say, well, I don't know how to draw, or I'm not an artist, or, you know, I hear that all the time. And we always kind of challenge that and say, you don't even know because you haven't tried. So yeah.
And that's how I felt because I told my wife, I said, yeah, I'm going to come with you. I'm just kind of curious to see what they have. And in the back of my mind, had always thought, well, maybe she just try drawing. Yeah. And so I went through and found this book that it shows you how to like draw 8 different animals, but it's step by step. And I decided to go, and then you got to decide pencil or acrylics. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to go with the clean one. I'm going to deal with pencils. Acrylics are a little bit too much for me, but no, it's a good time to try.
Throw in real quick, and this like it might be a little off topic, but it feels like it's the right place.
Feel free. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, So my favorite quote from a teacher is, or experience is like, I was in a drawing class and the lady next to me was like, she was like, I'm afraid to start. She goes, what if I mess it up? And he looked at her, he said, okay, shut your eyes. And she shut her eyes. And then he said, okay, put your pencil on the paper. Okay. He goes, now make a mark. She goes, okay, did you make a mark? She said, yes. He said, okay, now you screwed up. Now you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. I like that, Jane. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, everyone gets those barriers and those feelings that block us, but just letting them go is so freeing. And it's just a wonderful like moment after that to just like immerse yourself.
Yeah. And even Mark and I, we kind of dabble in comedy. I do improv and Mark does too. And Mark, you also do stand up.
I do stand up. Yep.
That brings me to another program that we lead for downtown that I'd love to share with you, learning that there's some performance opportunities. So we also lead a series called 5 to 10 on Hennepin, which is a live concert series that's going into its 5th year. And basically we work with youth who are experiencing homelessness in the Hennepin Theater District and adults, as well as other just human service organizations to provide a performance platform on surface parking lot on Hennepin Avenue. And we do that once a month in the summertime. Of course, this past year, we had to delay, we had to cancel our season, unfortunately, but it looks as if we're going to be able to have a season in 2021 that will start in late June. And so there are some opportunities to participate, either to come to that live concert series, because it is totally accessible, totally free. We even provide food and drink and refreshments and face painting for kids, games, all sorts of things. And we, this is a stage for people to perform on. So I would love to consider like what, kind of a partnership if there's interest in some of the emerging people who are doing different things that would be brave enough to like try out something on this stage that tends to attract like a pretty young audience. But a lot of families come and, it's just a really fun thing to do because we recognize that like not everybody can afford a ticket to Broadway, right? Like sometimes that's not always an option for everyone in our community, although we do have access programs in which we do provide tickets to performances in our stages to different organizations. And that work's led by our education team at Hennepin Theater Trust. We want to make sure that there isn't just entertainment happening in our people palaces and these brick and mortar places, but that there's stuff happening, that's really super accessible. Like even if you're just walking down the street or rolling down the street, whatever you're doing, it's like that you can stop and you can participate and just enjoy like a really cool arts experience in the community. So not only are there opportunities for people to try out being creative and to kind of experiment a little bit that's maybe a little more emerging, but also an opportunity to come and just be in community and have like a good time. That's like really low barrier.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I love your energy, Joan. I was seriously, when I seen you earlier in this video clip with you with a megaphone and directing tours through the skyways, I was like, this is definitely going to be an interesting interview.
I am a really warm and enthusiastic person, and I think that, and very extroverted. So I think seeing a photo of me with a bullhorn is pretty appropriate.
Yeah.
I will say when we're like loading up the truck and getting everything ready for 5 to 10, Joan will come down and go, do you have new batteries in the megaphone?
I know, right? She's got to get in on that.
Check.
But you bring up kind of a cool point though, Trisha, is that so for me, I have a healthcare background. So before I went into arts administration and community organizing, I was a professional nurse and I worked in emergency shelter systems. I worked in family care and ambulatory care, and I did a lot of geriatric nursing. So my trajectory to like lead these projects was really unique. And so when I approach arts organizing, I really approach it from a lens of healing and belonging and being really community driven. It means a lot to me that people feel a sense of welcome and a place to belong. And, you know, I'm so privileged to be able to lead projects that I believe in, because I think that art and cultural experiences are such a great way to bridge difference too.
Mhm.
And that, we all, it's like beauty and joy and artful experiences to me feel very much like a human right. And that it's like something that should be prioritized. And very oftentimes we find in their school systems and in other areas, especially now with all of the financial consequences of this pandemic, that arts oftentimes are some of the first things to get cut, but that, they're actually really, really core to our humanity. And so, yeah, I'm overly passionate about people being able to participate in these experiences, because at my core, I love people, and I love the fact that projects and creative expression can lend itself to healing opportunities and to connecting with each other, and to really, being seen, like all of these kind of issues that I think oftentimes marginalized communities experience more so than a lot of others. So it's really a passionate part of my life. And so that's why it was so exciting to be invited to come and speak with you all about this, because I'm like, I definitely want to reach like communities that maybe are a little bit more difficult for Hennepin Theater Trust, more, some of our more, Broadway, like we're known as the Broadway house, right? Like a lot of people have no clue that we like do huge murals and we do like
Right.
concerts in the street, and we like work with the Salvation Army Harbor Light Center to make art, and we work with kids. Like I just feel like a lot of that programming gets kind of like dimmed with the spotlight and the glare of Broadway, but we do that stuff. And we love for people to feel like they have an opportunity to participate with us. So yeah, so I'm a spaz, basically.
Yeah, and
Nice.
and depending on your art form, for me, like I said, well, it's not drawing. I'm just starting the drawing, but doing this my stand up comedy, I call it sit down comedy because I am in a wheelchair and that. But with my comedy, what I like about doing it, it's based on my life being in a wheelchair, and it just gives people a view of someone's life. And for me, I've been fortunate to have a life where I'm married, I've got 2 kids, so my kids, I had to put them in a headlock a few times to get them to agree on my jokes about them, but I've paid them off well, so they've been. But it just gives people an understanding that just because you're disabled doesn't mean you can't chase around kids and get mad at them and ground them and
Yes.
and things like that. So with basically what I'm saying is, whatever your art is, it gives you a way to express your feelings, your life, and that's what I'm looking forward to now, going into the drawing world. It's just a whole different process.
Yeah.
It's no longer engaging this, which I'm really good at, and now it's the hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. And that's really beautiful, Mark. And I think that's kind of a testament to like, that's also saying that we don't always have to be reduced to being experts at one thing, right? Like either like we can creatively express ourselves in multiple ways. Like, like there's lots of different activities that you can try and just see. I'd like to pass the mic to Jane to talk about her. She's an artist, and she started out working with Hennepin Theater Trust as a participating artist. So Jane, maybe you can just talk about kind of like the artist experience and kind of like through our programs and stuff, like how we support artists.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm even going to back up a little farther than that. I'll make it real quick. So I was a cab driver, and I picked up Joan and and her husband to take them to the airport. So Joan and I met in a taxi cab.
Hello.
At the time, she was doing an artisan storefronts project in the neighborhood. And that is how she was discovered by Tom Hook at Hennepin Theater Trust, because of some press that she got. And she had invited me to be a part of the first one. And I'm like, oh, this is such a short turnaround. Like, I can't do that, right? Well, then I get an invitation to the next one. And I'm like, okay, I need to embrace this, right? And so I did it. And it is true. Like, the whole storefront experience is kind of a short turnaround, but that's because you're working with property managers and like vacant spaces and all the dynamics. So I thought, okay, I'll do this and then she'll be done with me. Well, here I am, 7 years later. Never been done with me. I was a participating artist in her very first show with Hennepin Theater Trust at E Block, which is a very famous block in Minneapolis that, you know, is now the Mayo Clinic Square. So, and we have done some exhibits in there as well. But one thing I will say that, like, two things, like Joan, like her primary like focus is always like, always support artists, but in a very specific way, is it makes sure artists get paid. So that's been like a really important part of her mission. And I think she's just done an extensive job and been very successful at fundraising and really upholding that goal. And then to give artists a voice and uplift careers. And Made Here, like that first storefront project, there were like no qualifications. You just, if you said you're an artist, you're an artist. You didn't have to send us a bunch of credentials, just give us your idea. So we were able to like show emerging artists, non-professional artists, along with some of the top names in our state. So we were really proud of that. And then we always focused, like the openings, we always brought in entertainers. So there was entertainment on the sidewalks, poetry. So nothing was off limits. And it's just like a very fantastical universe. So, you know, being an artist in that, I would just say that I don't think I've ever been treated better as an artist in any other environment. So that's been really special. And, you know, and then I ended up working here. So now I get to be a part of supporting all the artists, and I'm really proud of that.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
I think we got a couple more minutes left. Trisha, any other question you have for our guests?
I was just gonna have you touch base because we know that Hennepin Trust offers like closed captions. And is there any other services that are provided for some of the disabled community?
Yes, so we do have a brand new virtual series that supports one of our public art projects. It's called It's the People, and it's a portrait photography that we leverage. We make huge and big scale portraits of issues that are facing our communities and some of the experts that are attacking those issues. So we have a new virtual roundtable series that we premiered at the end of November, and our next episode is going to be the last week of December, talking about gun violence prevention and leveraging arts activities that help with violence prevention, which is a pretty amazing topic, to a pretty amazing intersection. So all of our videos are closed captioned, to your point, Trisha. That's a priority for us. We don't even publicize teasers or even little clips without making sure that that's the case. I guess I also will say that, like, with our storefront project and with our gallery projects, Maryjane and her teammates have been super mindful of making sure that, like, all of the tags and the signage and everything that kind of supports the exhibitions that we put together are compliant with ADA standards. So that's something that matters a lot to us. And I would say, as well as when we do events in our event center, which, you know, I'm so excited. I hope we can get back to that either this summer or
Yes.
this fall. We have ADA compliance in our event center. So we're able to invite in the community. But what I think has been so magnificent about this, like, horrible pandemic is the accessibility that's come with us having to work from home. and with us having to be able to have arts experiences online. So Jane and her colleague, her name is Tanya, she works for us as well as our production supervisor, have developed virtual fine art gallery that you can tour, and you can even buy artwork there. So it's kind of in a development stage at the moment. We're getting ready to launch that on our website, but we intend to like have multiple exhibits that people can experience online, either from their phone or from their laptops. So in addition to really being mindful about the experiences that we're creating for the community and that they're accessible to our community who are living with disabilities, that we're also trying to like really think and be mindful about how folks who maybe might not have as easy of a time getting downtown, or maybe really want to experience the art or even purchase a piece of art, but just, you know, need some more low barrier opportunities to do that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So no, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I want to thank everyone for joining. I'm just gonna go by first names, being I got fortunate enough to get your last name the first time. I don't want to miss that chance. But I want to thank you, Joan. I want to thank you, Jane, Trisha, and I'm Mark Knutson, and this has been Disability Landscape.
Thank you, everybody.